or something. So that
We are live, by the way.
Oh, we're live now. Okay, this is awesome. So Tika, we're going live on Facebook too.
okay,
So I appreciate you sharing in there. I may come back to you because
absolutely.
well, here's the thing. You're here in person. So Juliana's going to run questions for me, which is great. And well, let's get started, shall we?
Yeah. So first, let me just say what a pleasure it is to have you here with us today. Sales is one of the most in-demand topics we get, and we limit the amount of people who can join in Zoom because it tends to kick people out. So we're doing the live so more individuals can watch, and they will ask questions via Facebook Messenger. So if you're watching on Facebook, feel free to ask as many questions as you like via Facebook Messenger to the Street Entrepreneurs page, and I will read them out loud to Kim at the end. So without further ado, feel free to take it over.
Okay, well, I just want to welcome everybody. As Juliana said, the reality about any kind of business is that you need to sell in order to have any kind of success. And a lot of business owners don't necessarily realize just how much they're going to have to sell when they start a business. Sometimes you have an idea, a great idea for a product like Tika has. Sometimes you have an idea for a service because it's something that you know how to do really well. And those are usually the people who have the hardest time because they think, well, I just really want to do whatever it is that I'm really good at doing. And then they start their business and then they realize, oh, I need to really sell. And unfortunately, most people feel pretty uncomfortable with sales because there's been a lot of cultural and social things that tell you what selling is. And I want to just talk today about what it actually is, not what people think it is, and maybe talk a little bit about some of the things that you can do to, as you're thinking about setting up your business, or if you've already set up your business, some ways to help you improve your sales and make you feel a little bit more comfortable actually selling. So I do have a little exercise in the middle of the program today. So I want to make sure, since I can't see any of you, you can just pop off and go make sure you grab a piece of paper and something to write with, because I do want you to take some time to participate in the exercise. So I never said, I'm Kim Fredrich. Nice to meet you all. And I work with small businesses of all shapes and sizes, and I help small business owners feel more comfortable with sales. And I'm working on another little idea, which I might share at the very end too. But I'm going to share my screen now, and we'll run through some slides. Oh, that's interesting. Something happened to my slides. So hold on a second. I'm going to need to just close my, hold on just a second. I had this all queued up and something happened, but I will sort it out. There it is. Okay. All right. Okay. So we're here doing sales strategies for startups. And usually when I do a program like this, I like to get a sense for who's joining me. And that's really hard to do when we have people joining on Facebook and we have people in it. In this virtual world, it is a little trickier. So I'm just going to roll with it and assume that most of you are new to business and maybe don't have any sales experience. So I do encourage you to, as we're going along, add your questions into the chat, either on Zoom or through Facebook, whichever way you're listening. And I will hope I'll get a chance to answer everyone's questions as we get near to the end. So this is a really introductory top level class, or a little presentation. We obviously can't cover everything there is to know about sales in less than an hour. So taking it away, what do you think of when you think of sales? This is a question that I really like to ask because this is where people start to go, I don't like what that means, and I don't want to be that kind of person. So oftentimes what people will share with me is it's somebody like this, somebody who's kind of looks a little, smarmy, and the kind of guy who's just going to talk your ear off and he's going to tell you you need to have something when you don't really need to have something. So that's unfortunately the impression that so many people have about selling. How about these pictures though? This is where we're talking about I see in these pictures, and I hope you do too, people that are helping. Looks like maybe some educating is going on here. She's showing him the different kinds of bike tires or maybe even bicycles. And she's asking him about what sort of bike riding he does, which one's going to be the most suitable for what he's doing. And same thing over here. It looks to me like there's some education going on. Some questions are being asked about what kind of golf game this fellow plays. Is he a beginner? Is he a really strong guy who doesn't need a huge, great big driver because he's already got that strength? You know, this is where selling really starts to turn into serving. And that's much more important than the sale itself, because the sale happens through the serving. I like to think that sales is really something that looks like this. Doesn't this look like a wonderful conversation that's happening? These two people are having, of course, we can't do this anymore, but when we could, and we can again, sitting down face to face with somebody, having a pleasant conversation where there is in fact a purpose. You're learning about their business or their personal need, and you're finding out, is there something that you can do to help them solve the problem that they've identified or that you've helped them to identify through the conversation. So for me, this is what we're aiming for. We're looking to have a warm, friendly conversation between two people, two human beings. That's not to say that you're going to have to be best friends with every person that you have a sales conversation with, but this is what we're looking for rather than smarm and sleaze and, hey, you need to buy this, buy my thing, right? That's not what we're looking for. So I like to show this slide because a lot of times newer business owners are uncertain what aspects of the sales funnel, this is your traditional sales funnel, which parts are marketing and which parts are sales. A lot of times people, especially people who are running a product-based business, really believe that actually for product-based businesses, you do need to do much, much more marketing. There are situations for product-based businesses, and depending on who you're selling to, where you do need to really work on the sales aspect too. The selling tends to come much more into the whole framework when you're talking about a service or a product that is customizable. So you have marketing here where people are becoming aware of the product that you sell or the service that you provide that solves a problem they may have. This is when they start getting interested. Oh yeah, I have that problem. That might be of interest to me. Selling starts when you start to get into here. They're considering that they're actually maybe going to make the effort to look into this. And they start thinking, yes, actually, this could solve my problem. And then we come down into evaluation. And this is where your sales skills really become important, because this is where you're differentiating yourself from other options that this particular consumer may have. Then, of course, we want them to buy. But this is important because a lot of times people think sales is all of this. And of course, it's not. This is marketing. And there are aspects to sales which come into the making people aware and getting them interested, which I'm going to talk about here in a minute. And this is important. I didn't actually appreciate until fairly recently how people perceive these things differently and don't really necessarily understand the difference between inbound marketing and outbound prospecting and referrals. And I bring it up here because I think this is an important distinction. The most successful businesses use all three. So let me just make the differentiation as to what they are. So inbound is when you're having a sales conversation or a sales transaction is taking place because your marketing and your marketing activities have made somebody say, huh, that's really interesting. And they reach out to you. So they contact you through your website, they send you an email, they call you, whatever it is. And there's then the opportunity to have a sales conversation about, let me tell you about my product. Let me ask you first about what it is that the problem that you need to solve. And let me explore that a little bit. Oh yes, actually, my product or service does in fact help you solve that problem. Sure. Is there anything else that I should know? And can I help you with that as well? So that's the inbound sales conversation. And what I have found is that a lot of new business owners who don't have experience as business owners really think that they can just rely on inbound marketing alone. They don't want to pick up the phone and make outbound sales calls. No, 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 no. That's really uncomfortable. So hopefully you've got, or by the end of this today, you'll feel like those outbound sales calls aren't as unpleasant as maybe you once thought. So let me tell you what those are. This is the prospecting that, and I'll be honest, even really experienced salespeople don't like prospecting. However, it's the best way to really shore up your sales effort. So what outbound is where you think, okay, the best possible person to purchase my product or service is this kind of person. And you research people who meet that description and you proactively reach out to them. Now that could be actually picking up the phone. It could be connecting with them on LinkedIn. It could be even something like sending an email, or it could be arranging to meet them at an event that you know they're going to be at. Those are virtual right now, but that can still happen. The reason it works so well is when you combine inbound and outbound, you're giving yourself the best possible chance for success. But a lot of people feel that that's pretty uncomfortable. So we're going to talk a little bit later about how to make that outbound prospecting more comfortable. And then I've got on here referrals. And this is one of those really obvious no-brainer things that still so many business owners don't do. And I actually, it takes up a whole chapter in my book. And I looked it up just because I've been talking about it this week. Chapter 13 is how to ask for referrals. Why is a referral so valuable and why do I include it in here with inbound and outbound? Well, it's because it's kind of like free business. And the best referrals come from your existing clients. So when you've provided a great service for a client or you've sold them a product and they've had a fantastic customer experience, and you have the opportunity to check in with them, get some feedback from them, this is a perfect time to ask for a referral. They're happy with their customer experience. And when you say, is there anybody else you know who has a similar or had a problem similar to the one that you had that you think might benefit from this product or service? When they've had a good customer experience, they're delighted to help you out that way. And it's easy to add it in to your business processes, and it can bring you so much more business that is easy to get because it's already a warm connection. Much easier than outbound, isn't it? Inbound, of course, is pretty easy, just costs some money. Outbound costs some time and some grit and some hard work. Referrals are the easiest one. I actually like to talk about them as being like magic, really. So hopefully you'll consider adding a referral process as part of your feedback or follow-up after a sale. Okay, what do you need to make your sales conversations convert? So I've already talked about how selling is really just having conversations. They're purposeful conversations and you're directing them, but they don't need to be anything uncomfortable or pitchy or even salesy. They're really about exploring needs and exploring solutions that you can match your solution to the needs of the person that you are speaking to. And it is just a conversation, which is pretty comfortable because we can all have conversations. How do you make them better? This applies to all conversations, by the way. You need to have empathy. And I think that's really important right now. Selling, especially cold prospecting, you need to be really careful with right now. We're starting to get back to business. Things are starting to open up, but it would be sometimes a little tone deaf to just call up someone in an industry that is really suffering. So you want to be considerate and do some research, what's happening in the industry that matches with what you sell, and be empathetic to what those prospects and clients are going through or might be going through. You need to have relationship skills, of course. And one of the key things that's most important that people don't really realize here is curiosity. You need to be genuinely interested in this person and their business? Because if you're not, it makes it hard to have this conversation in an authentic way. So if you can be curious and be aware that you're trying to make a connection, however you do that, that's going to help you make this convert much more effectively. This one's so important, but it's one that so few people can do well. Listening, it's all in caps, because remember when we talked right at the beginning, that picture of that young man who was kind of a little smarmy looking? It's possible he's a good listener, but that persona of the salesperson who's like doing the pitch and all those sorts of nasty, unpleasant things that we don't want to be, they're not known for their listening, are they? And yet, what really needs to happen in a sales conversation is a lot of listening. You want to be asking the most amazing, compelling questions, which we're going to get to here shortly. But then, even more importantly, is listening to the answers. And even more importantly, is listening for what's not being said. This is a little harder, admittedly, right now when we can't meet people in person. It means you have to, as the salesperson or business owner, work even harder to catch those cues and the signals that are telling you things that they're not actually saying in their words. And believe me, they happen. And in this, you're probably pretty good at it. In a personal conversation, it's no different in a sales conversation. And then what you want to be doing is problem solving. This is the difference between the serving and the selling. When you're serving, you are seeking problems or issues, things that somebody's having a struggle with. How can you help them overcome that struggle? Can your product or service do something to make their life easier or better or get over that issue? So these are the things that are going to help you be more effective in your sales conversations. They all come together and they all need to work together. And you do need to prepare and you need to practice a little bit, actually, so that you can do this well and comfortably and naturally. So that part you already know how to do, conversations you have with friends and family and people that you know. So you need to transfer those skills that you have into a sales conversation framework, but still keep it authentic and natural using these different skills. Okay, I love these slides. Again, whoops, I almost knocked the computer off. This is one of my favorite things because people think that salespeople do all the talking. And we'll see here the orange and your average sales rep call. These were statistics compiled by this really cool company called Gong, and they analyze sales calls, hundreds and thousands of them. And what they found was in an average sales rep call, the blue was the sales rep and the orange was the customer. You can see that the blue is much, much bigger. But have a look at this. These are the top performing sales reps. And look at the difference. The clients are doing all of the talking. And guess what that means that the sales rep is doing? Listening. Exactly right. This is how you can change your sales conversations from less effective to more effective just by working on your listening. So we're going to talk about that too. All right, this is the part where we're going to do a little exercise. I want to just talk to you about the compelling questions that you should be using in your sales conversation to really make the connection with your prospective client and to really uncover those needs that we were talking about and to move this conversation into problem solving. The idea here is that you really want people to think about their needs, but answer in terms of your needs. And the way you do that is by having your compelling questions carefully constructed. These are not questions you just throw out. You've planned these ahead, you've practiced asking them, and they're going to connect your unique selling value to the things that you believe that your prospective client needs help with. Obviously, you're going to have a few because as you're having a conversation, those needs may change or you may learn something new and different. So I'm going to give you a few examples. So here's a really good one. if you're having a sales conversation, you're doing your discovery and you're learning all about the business and you've done all that. One of the things you can ask is, what do your clients tell you about their experience, your product, your service compared to other service providers? You can fill in the rest of that as is relevant to your business and your industry. This next one is one of my favorites because this is where you start to uncover more potential opportunity for your business. When you ask your prospective client, what's coming up next for your company? So you're not talking just about the problem they're having right now, but also what are they planning for the rest of the year? What are they planning for the next 5 years? There may be things in that answer that you think, I can help with that. And maybe setting that up now, or at least getting that idea out there now, is going to help. So these are some questions that you see if they're sort of the kind of questions that aren't just throw away. These are deep questions. They cannot be answered with a yes or no. That's important too. Compelling questions can never, ever be answered with a yes or a no. What you're attempting to do is draw people out to talk. And remember, you want to listen. And I tell you what, it is amazing how this works. I can put out a compelling question like this, and it's suddenly someone will talk for 10 minutes, and it is astounding what they share with you. And meanwhile, you're processing because you're listening and you're processing what they're saying and you're connecting all the dots so that you can come up with a solution. Some other good ones would be, if you could change one thing about the last project that you worked on, what would it be? Or what would make it easier for your customers to buy from you? That one is a pretty good one if you've got a product. What could make it easier to buy from you? So what I'd like you to do now, what I'd like you to do now is grab that piece of paper and something to write with, and I'd like you to just take a moment to think about one single compelling question that you could ask in a sales conversation that would help take it into a deeper zone about what is it that this client is really trying to achieve and relate it to your unique selling value and what you have to offer. And then I'm going to ask, maybe Juliana, maybe we can ask if someone could share theirs. We can ask that in the chat. Okay, so I'm going to stop talking for just a moment. I'm going to bring me back. And let's just give you a moment. I'll be quiet. You can do that.
Kim, Tika's asking if you could repeat the question, please.
Oh, the question, the exercise.
Yes.
I'm having you do a little exercise where I want you to draft a compelling question that you could ask in a sales conversation. So Tika, I'm not sure if you're selling wholesale or not, but if you are, then it would be the sort of question that you would ask to a retailer. And if you're not selling wholesale and you're selling direct to consumer, that is a little harder. There's probably not going to be a compelling question because you may not be having sales conversations. Julian, are you seeing anybody? Can we ask somebody to post their question into the chat, either on Zoom or on Facebook? Oh, you're muted.
I'm sorry, I already saw a response on Facebook.
Oh, perfect. Okay, so if someone is, thank you so much for sharing. Let's if everyone's had enough time to at least scribble down a few thoughts, these questions sometimes are really easy for some people, and for others, they take some time to work through. And yes, so let me take the Facebook question and then I'll come to Tika because he's shared his as well. Can you tell me what they shared on Facebook?
So this person sells small businesses. Um,
Okay,
so it's a digital tool for small businesses. Just
okay.
I think it's helpful if I give you some background. And the question they came up with is, how are your online sales going?
So it is, I assume that the tool helps with online selling.
Yes.
Yes. So yes, that's a good question. And I might want to ask, even to take it a little deeper, I might say something like, um, are you looking to increase the number of sales that you're making online as compared to other ways that you're making sales? That might be a way to increase, and that sounds like a yes or no answer. So you get where I'm going with it. You want to craft that question where you can kind of find out, are they making most of their sales online, and are they experiencing any issues with that? Now, if you might ask them, what better question would be, how much are you anticipating to grow your online sales in the next 6 months or year? Because then they'll start talking about where they want to get to. They'll talk about what they're doing now to grow their online sales. And then after they tell you all sorts of things, then it'll be appropriate for you to come in and maybe introduce your product. Okay, Tika, I'm going to ask you. So you're saying, when will your market come back after the pandemic? Yes, this is a great question for right now. What I'm recommending for most people, especially in industries that are maybe a little shaky and are maybe not sure where things are going to go, you're calling not necessarily as a sales call, but more just, hey, how are you? And what's happening in your business? And what do you think is going to happen? And when do you think it's likely for things to start to pick up? So that's not a sales question necessarily, but it's a great opening question. And what trends do you see in the industry? Yeah, that's helpful. But I want to make sure that if you're asking a question like that, that it's connecting somehow to something that you can offer. And maybe what you're trying to do is draw out any kind of a trend that's related to your product. Okay, and Gina's saying, what makes your products better than your competitors? Yes, I love that one, because everybody will talk all about their product and why it's better. And then you can say something like, and where do you think where are you planning to take it? Or how are you planning to grow? Whatever it is that's related to what you have to offer. Because remember, we're looking for issues. I hate to use that overused phrase. We're looking for pain points. But yes, we are. We're looking for things that they're struggling with that are getting in the way of what they want to achieve. So yes, you can ask about the competitors. That's a question that's going to be probably more of a discovery question as you're learning about their business and what sets them apart from other things. So Tika's saying its products are versatile, so you can adjust your pitch. That's awesome. I like it. Okay, so does anybody have any more questions about, no, let's move on actually, and we'll get to general questions at the end. I want to make sure we have a chance to ask general questions. So I'm going to share my screen again. We're going to come back to this one. So when you're talking about these compelling questions, they're falling into here mostly. You're not going to really have a sales conversation of the depth and intensity that I'm describing here until you get somebody who's already down to evaluating. And if you've done all of these things really well and your marketing is doing a good job of connecting the right people to your product or service, and there isn't a lot of competition because you've really differentiated yourself, then once you get to intent to buy and evaluation, this sales conversation can be all that it takes to have somebody buy. And when you get down to here, a lot of times people say to me, well, how do I ask? How do I close the sale? And it's as simple as this. You ready? You take a deep breath and you say, when would you like to get started if it's a service? And if it's a product, you say, so what do you think? Does this look like something that you want to pursue right now? Something like that. It's not hard unless you make it hard. And so you'll need to, just like the compelling questions, come up with the words and phrases that are comfortable for you to use, but that actually they convey the intent. You are looking to get a signed contract or a sale. So you'll come up with the ones that are appropriate for your product or service, but also comfortable for you to ask. And it's completely okay to make that ask, because that's, after all, why we're here. You're solving a problem, and your prospective client wants their problem solved. So I find a lot of time, especially with female business owners, that they are really uncomfortable asking this question, asking for the business. And they shouldn't be, because it is pretty straightforward. You just want to say, are you ready to work with me? Or even, should I get some contracts prepared? Things like that. Okay, I love this part too. And if we had a live session, maybe I'll ask you to put it in the chat anyway, and Juliana can tell me the answers. So this is about follow-up. So maybe you don't get to sign the contract at the end of your sales conversation, but you've had a great conversation and they're like, this is fantastic. I really want to move forward this. I need to just confirm that I can put it in for next week or next month or whatever it is, right? So this one is, how many times do you follow up? And it's not just relevant for that final sales conversation, but even from the very beginning. So if you would like to put in the chat, either on Zoom or on Facebook, how many times do you think you need to follow up after someone has had a conversation with you somewhere in that sales funnel and expressed some interest and maybe an intent to buy? I'll see if Juliana is getting me any. Are we getting any responses? Oh, you're muted. One time, Gina says, okay. Most quit after one. Yes. So Tika, he's pretty savvy. He's saying 5, and most quit after one. Yes.
In the chat, we're getting 1, 2 2s, and
Okay.
1 3.
So it's all over the place, but
Yeah.
nobody said 12.
12? That's a lot.
Well, hold on. I'm going to explain this.
Sorry.
So here's the thing about this. Everybody is absolutely right. Most people never follow up enough. Most people stop after 1. And here's the reality. It takes as many as 12 touches from first touch, that includes your marketing, and even all the way through all of your contacts, emails, phone calls, conversations in person, can take as many as 12, and sometimes for a very complex sale, more. I talked to a sales friend the other day, and he said he's selling a complex cybersecurity product, and he said, yeah, he tracks it, sometimes as many as 16. Now, everybody gets really concerned with, well, aren't I being bothering and aren't I being too pushy? You have to be able to walk that line. I'm not saying that you call every day for the next 3 weeks. Probably what you do is you agree on what the follow-up is. If you're having a meeting or a phone conversation, you agree what the next step will be. The best possible thing that you can do is agree that you will contact them at this date and time, and you'll carry on the conversation. And you can't always get up with people, and people are busy, and that's why it takes so many, because what happens is you don't know what's going on the other end. You think, oh my God, I phoned and I emailed and I sent another email and I commented on their LinkedIn post, and then I phoned again and nothing's happening. But we don't know what's going on at the other end. There may be that there's been a death in their family, could be that they've just got a new boss, could be their company merged with another company. There's so many reasons why people don't respond, some of which can be related to what you did and didn't ask, like who's the decision maker. But more often, it's just that it's not as much of a priority for your prospective client as it is for you. So please don't stop after 1. Don't even stop after 3. Keep going. At some point, if you get 0 response, you might want to send an email that just says, Can you just let me know if this is even something that you're still interested in, or should I close this? Because I haven't heard from you and I just want to make sure I'm serving you in the best possible way. But you got to keep going. Okay. So hopefully everyone's not going, really? Well, yeah, because most people don't get that one. Okay. So I think, I'm going to just double check. I'm pretty sure the next slide that I have, Juliana, is my closeout slide where it just says how you can reach me and stuff. So shall we go to the questions?
Yes, we can do
Okay.
that. Um, so let's start with the questions here.
Yeah.
And I see someone just joined. Hopefully, you were watching from Facebook before this. But Tika, Gina, Henry, Baloo, if you have any questions, feel free to ask. In the meantime, I'm going to kind of compile from the messenger.
Yeah, absolutely. So, I mean, in this very short presentation, I've kind of covered a lot of stuff. Key things to take away. A conversation, selling is really about serving, and it's just about having a conversation. It's a structured conversation where you've prepared and planned your compelling questions
A lot of
that
stuff.
that connect your unique selling value or your unique selling proposition to those questions and to the problems that the people are likely to be having. So they're carefully crafted, those compelling questions. You want to practice saying them out loud too, and you'll get better at it the more sales conversations that you have. And it's important to follow up more than once, as many as 12 times. You want to make sure you're varying that follow up. In some cases, before the pandemic, it's even appropriate to just drop in. If you have a prospective client who's geographically close to you, and you just pop in and say, hey, how's it going? And just wondering how things are moving forward on that project proposal, whatever you called it, that we were discussing.
Awesome. So I have a question here. It says, how much is too much?
Ah,
When should you stop?
that's an excellent question. So, because 12 sounds like a lot, doesn't it? And you need to be wise about this. And if you're just getting completely blanked and completely blanked, you might just that's when you might send that closing email where you say, I haven't heard back from you for a really long time. I just want to make sure that you're still interested in this, or do I have your permission to close this file? Something like that really helps because it allows you to take it out of your pipeline, especially if you have somebody else who is looking to see what your sales results are, and that might even be a bank. So you want to take it out of your pipeline. And sometimes if you followed up and it's some weeks or months later and there's been no communication to say, we've put this project on the back burner for now or whatever, you can pretty much get the feeling that this isn't moving forward, which is why it's a good idea to send that closeout email just for a final confirmation. Sometimes they come back, but it's not good to leave them hanging in your pipeline if you've really had zero communication or feedback. And it is okay to just let it quietly go. If you've put in your best effort, that's okay.
So someone here is contacting us from a nonprofit,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to know if that is different.
Yes. Yes. So in nonprofits, you're fundraising, right? You're not usually selling a product or a service. It is still a sale, but most of what I talked about in terms of connecting your value proposition and having your compelling questions and all that has to be altered. So and I'll be honest and say this is not my area of expertise, but what I would say is what you're doing in a conversation is you're connecting things that the potential donor feels are important to things that you're trying to achieve with your nonprofit. So, for example, for street entrepreneurs, you might connect with another business owner who's had tremendous success and is like, so, you've had really great success and you worked really hard. And wouldn't it be great if you could also be involved with giving other entrepreneurs a leg up and a helping hand to get going when they have great products and ideas? Something like that. Um, and that's all I'm going to say, because that is not my area of expertise.
Here's another interesting question. My products are very cheap, and it wouldn't make sense for me to have conversations with each customer. How can I do this over email or Facebook?
Okay, I need to ask a follow-on question. Is this a product that is purchased only online, or is it a product that is, because you said it's low value, so is it a commodity type product? Because if it's a commodity type product, then the sales conversation, as I've described here today, is absolutely right, is not really relevant. Commodity type products are really being sold on the basis of the lowest price, and high volume is important. And what's most important there is really, 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 really good marketing and really excellent customer service. Because if the product is not special or differentiated in any way, it is difficult to make anything different about it that would make it easy for a potential buyer to choose your product over another product. So yes, when you're talking about products that are high volume, marketing is much, much more important. And that's true that the things I talked about today are more relevant for higher value products and services and things that are more customizable.
Um, I got the answer to that. Online is the answer, by the way.
Online?
Yep, they're
Okay.
sold online.
There are sold online. Yeah. So, oh, thank you. So when you're selling a product online, that is almost exclusively marketing. And your little bit of sales opportunity comes anytime you have someone who makes an inquiry. But otherwise, it's almost exclusively marketing and the way that you present the product on your website.
Awesome. I have another question that I find interesting. So, I sell remodeled used cars. How can I get a list of prospects, and how do I define my sales funnel? How many people do I need to reach out to?
Okay. How do you define your prospects? That is tricky. You're going to be, I don't know if your remodeled cars, are they special, like they're vintage or something like that? Because that's a different kind of market than a remodeled car that might maybe appeal to someone who's looking for their first car and needs a reliable car that's not particularly
They're
expensive.
antiques.
He said what?
Antiques.
Antiques. Okay. So that is going to rely a little bit more heavily on marketing. And you're going to want to make sure that you and what you do is in front of people who are specialty car buyers and antique shows and fairs and things like that. And I'm guessing, I don't know that market very well, but I'm guessing that if you are at an event, let's hope these can happen again, you're at an event and maybe you do a presentation or a talk about the work that you do or the trends you're seeing and how things are being remodeled, you could probably have some pretty good conversations, and you can find out, are they looking for an antique car because they have a special emotional memory that's related to that particular car? Or do they like this particular vintage because there's something that connects them to it, that they have an interest in something else related to that era? There are lots of ways that you could do that, but you need to set up the opportunity for the conversation. And I imagine that there are ways that you could do that.
Here's another one from someone
Okay.
who manages a salesperson.
Oh, okay.
And they're saying, how do you calculate the number of conversations sales
Right.
people need to have? Yeah,
Thank you. The other person with the car also asked that. So this is great because this is something probably a lot of people are thinking about. Um, I have a sales conversation calculator that I'd be happy to share with you, Juliana, that you can send to our participants today. You
perfect.
basically work backwards from the revenue target that you're looking for. And you can figure it out. I can't do it just quick like this, but it's a pretty easy formula. When you need to know these things, though, you need to know your, excuse me, your average sale value. You need to know approximately what your conversion rate is. So that is, if you have 10 sales exchanges or conversations and 3 usually buy, that's a 30% conversion rate. So when you know those things plus your goal, your financial goal, you can plug that into my sales conversation calculator and it'll tell you how many conversations you need to have. Now, what's important to make a distinction here is this different than marketing conversion rates, because if you search online for conversion rates, what you're generally going to come up with is marketing conversion rates. That's, remember on my funnel, that was way, way up at the top. I'll just show you again. Okay, I'm gonna go back, this one here. So a lot of times you're talking about, this is where you have the greatest number of potential leads come in here. And you'll see that's why it's a funnel, because they get fewer and fewer and fewer as they come down. So when you're talking about, in my sales conversation calculator, how many actual conversations do you need to have? I'm looking down here. When you're actually having a conversation, not how many people saw your ad and signed up to your newsletter or visited your website, because those are also considered conversions. And it gets really complicated when you start looking at how do you attribute a sale, because do you attribute it to this marketing campaign or to the phone call follow-up from the salesperson somewhere in here? You see what I mean? It gets a little tricky. So if you're talking about managing a salesperson, though, that you can come up with the number of actual conversations they need to have.
Awesome. So I have a question myself,
Okay.
if I may.
Yeah.
What do you think makes a successful salesperson?
The most important thing,
Yes.
being able to listen.
Mm.
And a lot of times, I wrote a post, actually a couple of years ago already now, where I talked about who makes the best salesperson, and it's introverts. And introverted people make better salespeople because they're really good at asking questions and then listening. And that does not to say that an extroverted person can't be a good salesperson, but they need to curb their natural sort of desire to talk. You remember that slide I showed right at the beginning about the top performing sales reps talk far less? So I think it's listening.
And how can you practice your listening skills?
Oh, that's an excellent question. And the questioning skills. You do that by having conversations with people that you know. So you sit down with your spouse or a good friend when we can do that. Okay, right now we might have to do it over Zoom, but you have a conversation with someone who you already know, and you prepare to have that conversation, and you set aside intentional time. This is really important for any conversation that you needed to come to a conclusion that you needed to come to. So you need to make it meaningful and that you're not distracted. And you prepare some questions to ask. So even if it's your spouse, ask them something that you don't know about them. And then practice that listening. It's really hard with your spouse. I've noticed this myself. I'm really good at listening to everybody except the people in my house. So that might be a good place to start, because it might improve your marriage too, possibly.
There we go. We'll market this workshop to
How to save your marriage.
Marriage counseling.
Yeah, now you start listening. So I do just want to say, I want to share one more thing just about, what I have going here. I'm going to just come back to my slides here. And I just want to say, yeah, we already did. So there's so many things that come into sales. And I work with people who, like I said before, who are very happy having sales conversations when people contact them. And I help them to make sure that they're not leaving money behind because they're only order taking, but they're actually problem solving. And I work with clients where I help them set up their sales strategy. Like, how many sales calls do you need to be making? How many conversations should you be having if these are the targets that you want to achieve? And, you can work with me one-on-one, or I have this book, If You Can Have a Conversation You Can Sell. It's a really easy read. It's very easy to get, $12.99 on Amazon. And I write every week on my blog. You can find it at kimfredrich.com if you want to subscribe to that. I talk a lot about how to do different aspects of selling. In fact, yesterday was about how to ask for referrals. And I talk in there also about connection and the importance of listening. And that's important to me. So that's why I put that in there. So thank you very much for joining me this afternoon.
Tika has one question. Can we fit it
Yeah,
in before we end it? So he says, Kim, what about the theory that sales is about creating an aura that your product is the next new thing? That takes a lot of energy.
that's marketing. If
Okay.
you are positioning your product as the next new thing, that's marketing. The sales part is when you look for people who you can serve by getting them your product. Do you see the difference? So
Yeah.
marketing your thing as the next new thing, it still needs to solve a problem, and that needs to be part of your marketing. Well, once you move into the actually, okay, how can I help you? What's your issue? And I think that my product can help you solve that. That's when it starts to become sales.
Okay.
It looks like Tika has a question.
I just read it out loud.
Oh, that was Tika's question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. That was Tika's question.
Tika, since you showed me your product at the beginning, before everybody joined us, your product is new and it is different and it is unique, and you need to focus all of your efforts on the problems it solves. And you told me what they were. It's like for your ultra marathoners and your endurance athletes, they need to carry things with them, but they don't want it chafing, and they don't want something heavy, and they don't want
Right.
something that's going to get in the way. So those are the products and the questions you might ask if you're getting a conversation with somebody. Maybe you're at a trade fair or some sort of an exhibition. You might ask people, you might say to them, well, what do you carry with you?
Yeah.
And how do you carry that right now? And they'll start telling you how uncomfortable it is. And then you'll say, here, I have a solution for you.
Right.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And I really, really, really appreciate you.
Well, I'm just glad to be helping you out. And I love working with new businesses because, as I said, so many people have amazing ideas and really amazing things that can help people, but they don't always appreciate how hard it is to do this selling part, and that you do need to put effort into it. And if you can think about it as a conversation instead of a sales pitch, makes it a whole lot more pleasant for you, because you're excited about your product or service anyway, and you want to talk about it. The key is to match it to somebody who actually has the problem that you solve.
Oh my God, I just got an amazing question. And I know we're
Okay.
supposed to end it, but
Well, let's do it. Let's do it.
okay, promise, last one. It
Yeah.
says, I heard women are worse at selling. Why is that?
It's true. No, actually, it's not. No. Let me say that again. Women think they're worse at selling, but those people that did those amazing statistics I showed you about who talks more and who listens more, they also analyzed sales calls by gender. Women are better salespeople. And here's why. Women just don't think they are, but they are. They're better because they're naturally better, not all women, but as a general rule, better at building relationships, better at connecting. And that connecting piece allows you to really understand the issues and then solve the problem. It's not to say women are better listeners or better at empathy or any of that, but as a general rule, women are better at connecting and building that relationship. And that's why they're better at sales.
Are they worse at closing?
They perceive themselves to be. And yes, I think they probably are. So they need to get, a lot of women that I work with, I need them to just get over that and just say, are you ready to work with me? It's weird if you've had a whole conversation and you've determined, your client is nodding, yeah, this could really help me. It would be weird if you didn't ask, because the client is expecting it.
Right.
Right?
It's weird how much society shapes our behavior.
100%. Oh, 100%. It is amazing at how many things that women are afraid to do because they think they shouldn't do it or they can't do it. And math is another one. We won't talk about that. But
Okay,
sales for sure. Women think they can't sell. They're very good at it, especially introverted women.
that's awesome. Okay, thank you so much for being here with us today. Any final thoughts? Final piece of
Um,
advice?
this is an interesting time to be starting or building a business. And what I've been advising all of my clients to do is if you already have clients, phone them. Just call them as one human being to another. Ask them how they are. It's not a sales call, it's just a connecting call. Because if they can't buy from you right now, they'll remember that you did that. And when they can, they're going to buy from you. And if you've done that and then you've called all your referral partners, same thing. How are you? How are you really? Then the next thing you do is you look for, excuse me, you look for, because things are in flux, things are changing. You look for who now needs what you offer, because it might be different than it was 6 months ago.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much.
You're
And
welcome.
tune into the next one. We've started to move our workshops to Facebook Lives and LinkedIn Lives because Zoom has been crashing. So sign up on Eventbrite and we'll let you know when the next one is and send you the link. Um, and thank you. Thank you, Kim.
Oh, you're so welcome. It's so great to be here with people asking such great questions. And I love what you guys are doing. And best of luck to everybody.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome. Bye
Bye.
bye.
Hi, thank you.